Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Speaking. I am Dee, and today my beautiful guest is Alecia. Thank you so much for being with me today. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very excited for this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. We were having quite the pre-chat before we started recording, and we had a great conversation on the phone the other day as well. So, where
Mm.
would you like to start with your story or what you do? What do you want to tell us today?
Um, okay. Let's see. I'm on a healing journey, probably like many people, a healing, metaphysical, learning about past lives, learning about energy, learning about my own gifts, like all of that wrapped into a little package. And so I really began my spiritual journey in 2020 after me and my husband separated, my ex-husband, and then COVID hit, and then my soul was like, "You've got to be doing something more." So I currently and still work part-time at a law firm, which I've done for 16 years. Very different arena, has a lot of
Yes.
lessons. Um, and so before 2020, my even like longer backstory would be some early childhood trauma. Then I went into two addictions and got really lost myself for a
Yeah.
long, long time. So it was a long road back. 2012, I really started kind of just like not listening to the news. Like none of that was holding my attention. So I kind of think that that was the first little bit of my like push in the awakening direction. Um, and then 2015, I wasn't feeling good in my body, was bloated, just felt ick. By the end of the day, I would come home and just feel awful. So I started going to the gym and doing intermittent fasting. And that was working all well and good. But then I discovered yoga and I started doing a lot of yoga. And what I realized was that practice not only made me feel good in my body, but it had effect on my mind that was very different. My ex-husband and I, it was a toxic relationship. We were what is referred to as trauma bonding. And we would get into these like never-ending sort of like, like mental battles that just didn't end. And I remember so clearly the one day that I was like watching him go into that, but I was no longer being pulled into that. And that was like 100% from the yoga. It was like, oh, he's there and he's doing that, but I'm here and I have control of my mind. I'm not getting sucked into that. So that was like a really like light bulb moment. And I'm getting shivers as I say it. Mm, sorry about that. There was a phone call. Um, So that was a major light bulb moment for me. I realized the power that yoga had, not only for the body, but also in the mind and the
Mm.
energy body. Because I was no longer like, sometimes we can even know things, but we get sucked in anyways, or in our
Yes.
emotions.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I had that background and I had that knowledge. So then when my soul came to me in like 2020 and was like, start to do something, start to bring something forth from within you to share. Um, that's what came to me was yoga. I can share this. I have a passion. I know it's powerful. I know it has the capacity to change
Mhm.
people's minds, people's lives. It changed my life. So I created Intentions Yoga. And from there, my journey has just it's just unraveled and unpacked in so many different ways. Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. That sounds really, and a lot of times addictions can show up in different ways. I know that you said you had the addiction thing going on for a while. Mine was toxic relationships. That's what mine was. And it's so crazy how we can actually get addicted to turmoil in our life. as because a lot of times people think of addictions and they think it's some sort of substance, alcohol, whatever, but
Mhm.
it can show up in a lot of different ways. So,
Mhm.
and having this spiritual awakening that you had, and I love yoga too. I'm getting back into it now. I've gotten out of it for a long time, and I am not very bendy right now, as I say, but I'm working towards getting that going again because I know it is a very transformational thing. And
Mhm.
I've seen lots of stories where lives have been transformed, not only, like you said, physically, but also mentally, spiritually, energetically.
Mhm.
So, is that the main thing that allowed your spiritual awakening to happen, the yoga, or were you also doing other things?
Um, so it was like the yoga was my business and what I was bringing forth. And I was taking trainings and I took my training on Kundalini yoga, was like intuitively led to do that, which is very energetic yoga. But then I also started to get this like thirst for knowledge. No, like knowledge about ancient Egypt, knowledge about Atlantis, knowledge about like the Hermetic wisdom. I spent a year in a Hermetic mystery school. I studied 7 levels of Kabbalah. Like it was just like more. I just want more, and it was whatever information I was drawn to, and I would be like, oh, well, I'll take this course. I'll take this course, and it was all this buffet of knowledge that I was so thirsty for. And I did that for from 2020 till now. I'm still doing it, but maybe not as much because now some of the things it's like I know them now. So it's getting repetitive. But that was really helpful because I did have what people call a Kundalini awakening in 2023, um, which had I not had all of that metaphysical, had I not done all that research about what was going on, might have been a bit of a scary situation.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard that about Kundalini awakenings.
Yeah.
And I actually had one last year. And so, what's interesting to me is I had someone tell me one time that you only ever have one Kundalini awakening. Do you feel like that's accurate?
Um, no, like I think there's no rules.
Yeah.
I think that, and everybody's going to experience things differently. So the one I had in 2023 lasted a week. And that made me realize that what happened to me, this amazing experience happened to me in 2004 when I was actually high on drugs. And I had been high on drugs for 3 years, but it was like my soul stepped forward to the forefront of my reality, told me, you're going to live or you're going to die. You need to choose. And I chose. I moved 2 provinces away. I'm from Canada. I moved to BC from Saskatchewan, and I got clean and I never touched drugs again. When I
Wow.
had that experience in 2023, I was like, oh, this is like the same energy. It was like the same. But in 2004, I had no idea what was happening.
Right.
I had no idea. I just knew. And so this also breaks apart many stigmas because I was a drug addict. So
Yeah.
I was not practicing any spirituality. And I had an awakening.
Yeah. I think
That
that's
steered my
really
life in.
important for people to know. I think that's
Yeah.
really, really important for people to know because, I mean, and I'm so happy that you listened and made the choice that you did. Was there any reservation about the choice that you made, or were you just full on like, I know something big is happening right now and I know I have to make this choice?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, I didn't know what it was, but it was a different feeling, a stronger feeling. And like what I explain about my Kundalini awakening is that it was like my soul came forward to the forefront of my reality. And it was like I was so present. And from that exact moment, that became the time. I had had maybe many times to make the decisions and I hadn't. And it
Mhm.
was like it had to bring me so aware into that moment to make certain decisions in order to move forward in the highest possible timeline or in the best possible way that I could from that
Yeah.
position.
Yeah. That's absolutely amazing. That's really profound. And I'm so glad you shared that. I really do appreciate you sharing that because I know that's a big share right there. That's a vulnerable share.
Mm.
But I shouldn't say but, and I really do feel like that's going to be pivotal for someone today that hears that story.
Yeah, that, and you know what? I carried from 2004, I got clean. But it was only last year that I started sharing my experience. And I realized it was shame. I
Yeah.
was ashamed of myself. Like I became a mom, I was working at this law firm, blah, 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 blah. But it was part of what I needed to do to be super authentic in my business.
Yeah.
And now I can share openly. I'm like, you know what? Because exactly what you said, if that helps someone.
Yeah. Absolutely. One, I think what you said, the word you use, shame, we do that to ourselves, don't we? Like we
Yeah.
look at our lives and we're like, I should, Wayne Dyer would say, you're shitting all over yourself. I should have done this and I should have been that and I should have accomplished whatever and
Mhm.
been this whole different person. But the fact of the matter is, the things that you went through created who you are today. And without those experiences, you wouldn't be this person and you wouldn't have this experience behind you to use to help other people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all like, yeah, you do get to a point where you're like, okay, how am I going to use the pain, the suffering, what was hard as a gift,
Yeah.
as opposed to continuing to reach into that and find the suffering and find the shame and yeah, and just perpetuate it really, even if it's unconscious and it's not in my daily life, but now it's out there. So, yeah.
And look at how amazing you're doing. And that is just such a testament, to where how we can shift our lives. So for the people that are out there feeling stuck and like there's no hope for them to have something different,
Mhm.
I mean, look where you are now. You're clean and you've got this amazing business. You've shifted your body, mind, soul, energy into this beautiful place through the yoga and the study that you've done. So it's possible to change things. I think that's a big message.
Yeah, absolutely. Human will and human, like, the energy we have within us, like that life force energy is amazing. And that's what I work with when I work with people, because I work with Kundalini yoga and we work in generating that to strengthen that. And when you strengthen that that helps you to become the best version of yourself, and not the best version in a way like, oh, so you'll look good in society. No, the best version of you that's going to make you the happiest, the most
Right.
joyful, the most fulfilled in whatever form that takes, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's not like I love that because Steve and I just had this conversation this morning about how we're perceived by other people. And it doesn't matter how you look to society. It doesn't matter. You have to do the things that walk the path that you're meant to walk, shine your light as brightly as you're meant to shine it. Because you dimming down your light or even shutting it off entirely, and these are words I actually said to Steve in our conversation this morning, even if you shut your light off entirely, it does not make someone else shine brighter. That's internal work that we each have to do on our own.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that reminds me of, I see a lot online lately of people pointing out things that are far away and being like, "Oh, isn't that terrible? Oh, it's so terrible. It's so terrible." But like something I heard once was to the effect of like, no amount of us suffering will ever make somebody suffer less.
That's right.
So by filling our own cup, by shining our own light, that's how we help one
Yeah.
way or another, either energetically through just raising the vibration and adding our little bit of light to the collective, or by actually somebody seeing us and being inspired. They're
Yeah.
not inspired by our suffering.
Right.
We're always inspired by the stories where somebody's overcome the suffering and the
That's right.
lessons they learn.
Yeah. And we
It's
can all
amazing.
do it. And I think that's the beautiful message that we're getting across here is we can all do it if we just do the work and allow ourselves to experience these new and wonderful things that we may not be used to.
Yeah, stepping into a new version of self
Yeah,
is scary. And there's all these old pieces that just want to hang on because who am I? If not that, then what? And
right.
it's new and it's scary. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of like, it's just, it is a journey because there's always this unfolding. I think I get to a place and then there's more. And
Yeah,
what I found really, if I can share like a metaphor about my own healing, is that I liken like our emotional wounds is truly what we are overcoming, right? The things that hurt us, the things that caused us to believe we were less than, that caused us to believe we weren't capable, and those things. And I feel like they form like if you ever fell down as a kid and scraped your knee really bad and had a big scab on your knee,
yeah,
those are like our emotional wounds. And then the work we do, the whether it's Reiki or Kundalini yoga or going to see a healer or just regular yoga or even going to see like a therapist actually, that becomes like a healing balm on that scab. We can't pull it off. We
right,
can't before we're ready because it's just gonna gush blood.
right.
That's like a graphic analogy, but that's true. And so, like, what I have realized is as I do the work, as I do the work, as I do the work, like, I don't have to have this big, like, that something great is going to happen. But when the time is right, my body will release,
Yeah.
and I'll have almost like a spontaneous healing. Or the all the work I've done has helped me to raise my consciousness to a point that now I see that whatever that instance was that was painful from a different perspective,
Mm, yeah.
and it's like, oh, I'm no longer in it being hurt by it. I've become the witness. And okay, what is the lesson? Oh, this, oh, that. And like, yeah, so that's been a really helpful metaphor for myself and my clients as well.
Yeah, that is a really good one. And it's not our life anymore. I just had a conversation with a friend this past week about that because she's going through some stuff and we had some similar stuff happen to us in our past with toxic relationships and she was saying something about that. I said, "Yeah, but the beautiful thing is that's not our life anymore. Now we have these amazing relationships with these incredible guys who are so good to us and so supportive of us. We don't even have to think about that crap anymore because it doesn't exist anymore."
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, like, and I see this, I see some people on my Facebook feed, and it's like, I think like years have gone by, and they're still complaining about the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, can we either just find something new to complain about, or like, don't you get bored of your storyline? Like, when is that no longer? Because we do, in a way, we do get a bit of satisfaction from being that victim,
Yeah.
right? But we also do not realize when we do that, we're just disempowering ourselves and there will never come healing from that victimhood.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's so true. That is so true. And I actually broad share here. I actually will unfollow. If I see too much of that, I won't unfriend, but I will unfollow because I don't want to marinate in that negativity. I'm like sending all the
Absolutely.
love and light to that situation, but I don't want to read it every day, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'll just unfollow because and I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like kind of lately as we were chatting, in before we started recording, one of the things I didn't say is that I've been kind of sad lately about situations like that, how people get so stuck, like they want to be claws out or just so negative all the time. And that repetitive, it has really made me profoundly sad lately to
Mm.
see the amount of that that's happening with people that I know personally, you know? And so that's something I've been working through this past week.
Yeah, I do try and illuminate in the kindest way possible that the person is making that choice.
Mhm.
You can decide to see what you want to see going on in the world, political this, political that. It's terrible, it's horrible. Or you can look out the window, you can see a tree. Like both exist.
Yeah.
Both exist. You're not you're not doing yourself a disservice by focusing on one or the other. Well, maybe disservice by focusing on the negative, but you will create a feedback loop of whatever you focus on.
That's right.
So you will have more of one. So decide how you want to feel ultimately.
Yep.
You don't have to feel, and that's where that like martyrdom and like, I have to feel bad about this because that's the moral thing to do. It's like, no,
No, it
the moral
isn't.
thing to do is to live your life and enjoy and raise your frequency and help people through your joy, not your pain.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to have that come back around and remind us sometimes, though, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think people feel like I don't know. I think they feel like they're taking the moral high ground and oh, this is so terrible and oh, this is so that. And I'm a good person if I see that as bad and if I make that my hill to die on, if that's my, but what they don't realize is like I like to tell people when they get going on tangents, like if you were gonna die tomorrow, you would not give a rat's butt about what so and so is doing.
That's right.
If you were going to die tomorrow, what would you do today?
Yeah,
What would matter? Who would matter? They should be what matters every day.
that's
That's
right.
what matters. Create your life from that. Focus on that and create around that because that's what you're truly here to do. I told somebody the other day, I'm like, if you were supposed to be in war and face war, war will come knocking at your door. You will not have to go across the world to find it and to feel sad about it. And like, I know that some people are like, whoa, that's terrible. It's like, but like, when you get into the spiritual realm, you can be like, well, but we've all been there. We've been through it as souls in past lives, in different times. Like, we are here in our life now to experience what comes before us in our life and to work through those challenges to transmute that experience, not
Right.
to focus on somebody else's.
Yeah. And when we raise our energy like that and stay in that more positive place, we raise the energy of the collective without even having to think about it. And
Yeah.
the more of us that do that, the more the collective energy is raised and the frequency is raised, and more of that other stuff is going to fall away. It has to.
Well, that's just what happens. Like, if everybody, instead of pointing fingers on what they thought was right and wrong, just like at the same time, like put their hands on their heart and said, like,
Yeah.
peace on earth. But we'd have to get everybody on board. And now and then that comes into like swaying people's opinion. And you can't. You can just vibrate your authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And I feel like that word is super important. That's another word Steve and I were talking about this morning. It's so incredible how my conversations are like these big precursors for my conversations in my podcast. But authenticity, that is so big. We can try to be like other people. We can do that, but
Mhm.
it always shows, in my opinion, the way I see it and feel it is that it always shows. If someone's not being authentic, you're able to feel that and see it. How
Mhm.
do you feel about that? Would you like to elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah. Yeah, I have like a lot. So I, it's almost like sometimes I can see it visually if people aren't authentic. And it's like I can't explain how I can, but I did a selfie challenge for myself a few years ago where I would take a selfie every day and show up on social media because I didn't like my image and I had to promote my business. But through that, it was like I was getting this like it was like this practice of becoming authentic because I could see where I wasn't authentic and then when I was and what that looked like.
Uh,
And then okay, well, what was happening? How was that? So I worked on that. I ended up creating an online group and run what's called the selfie challenge for self-love. It's a 30-day
I
selfie
love
challenge. So I
that.
take other people through this. And because some people have a hard time looking at their own image, but this is a good feedback loop for you. And to love it, to become okay with it, no makeup, no filters, all that. So I've been really curious about authenticity for a while. And what came to me the other day also was that people aren't purposefully being inauthentic.
Right.
It's not something they're like, I'm going to go out and pretend I'm this other person. And like, they're not doing it with a nefarious intention,
Right.
regardless of what it comes off. What is happening though is authenticity is on the other side of healing
Mm,
fully and understanding yourself and facing yourself. That is like the what will happen after. So sometimes people will be trying to show up in a certain way, but it's inauthentic because they haven't integrated that frequency. They haven't healed properly. They don't actually understand the lesson they're trying to teach from that witness perspective. They're still kind of wrapped in it, but they saw that another person did that and that looks good. That
yeah.
just, it should be, it should really be almost like that's your hint that's okay. What do you need to heal now to truly step into that space, to truly step into that space? And so, yeah, a lot of it is like that unpacking. And that was with me, it was like, yes, I was an addict. Yes, I was this. Like I had to be all the pieces of me. But
Yeah.
now I know also that there could be other things too. And so I just be honest and yeah, yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. And I love the 30-day challenge thing because
Mm,
you're going to show up energetically differently from day to day. You know,
yes.
you're going to feel like one day you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to do my hair. And that's who you are that day. Like that is authentic for you that day because that's what you're feeling in your energy. I feel
Yes.
pretty. You know, there's that song.
Yeah.
You know, like I
Yeah.
feel pretty today. So you're in that. And then the next day you wake up and you're like so not in that. You are so in the grunge, like ponytail, sweatshirt mode, you know. So
Yep.
just because your selfies may look different over the period of the 30 days doesn't mean that you're not being authentic in the moment that you take the selfie. And I think that's an important thing for people to notice too.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Like it is just there's just really so much stigma about like we're like, oh, like we only see pretty people on TV, but looks aren't supposed to matter. But actually they do. And it's just like yeah, it's a very confusing space. So yeah, all that I hope is to get a little more clarity for people,
Yeah.
you know? And it was really helpful for me to see myself certain ways. And maybe when I it was seeing myself when I was trying too hard and that was inauthentic. So it was like, oh, well, you don't have to try too hard. Just
Right.
it's okay. Just be you.
And that's what people are looking for. I really feel like people are looking for that and they're going to notice if something seems awry. You know,
Yeah.
if you're not fully there, and no matter how good it looks, like people are going to feel that.
Yeah, they feel it. They don't even know what they're feeling. They just know that they don't want to go back
Right.
or
Right.
that, that's not for them. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think authenticity is an absolutely beautiful thing. And I don't know, I might have to borrow your challenge and put it in my group because I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Well, what are some other things that you would like to share with us about your spiritual path, your journey, or just bits of wisdom for those listening?
Oh man. Well, mm, to differentiate between what's coming from the ego,
Mm,
what's coming from your higher self, and then what's coming from maybe your guides. That's what I'm really working on right now with my mentor is these three different aspects, and that so the ego will usually tell you not to do things. And it will feel safer to listen to the ego,
right.
especially if you're trying to create content or create a business or do something that expands. And
Mm,
that's something to look at and to just know, oh, that's ego, that's fine. It's all good. And then the higher self kind of comes through with those like nudges to do things. And it's sometimes really quick and you need to just listen to
yeah.
it. You're like, oh, how did I get here? That was such a good decision, but I didn't really have much thought before it. Where did it come from? Oh, but it's great. And then yeah, what I'm working on is like expanding my energy field so that I'm not being interfered by other people's energy so that I can hear my guides. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how that works. And that the healing journey, the spiritual journey, all that, it is expansion of consciousness. So it wants to expand and it's going to like call forth, it's going to want you to be as clear as possible, to expand as much as you possibly can, to get as much out of this life as you can. And then the work is, it's never anything out here. You will be triggered, possibly, by out here, but the root of whatever is triggering you is inside you. You've just superimposed it on the outside world to try and work through it.
Hmm.
So knowing that, yeah, like those cliche, like true change comes from within, but it really does.
It does.
It does. It only comes from within.
That's right.
So, and when I work with like the energy within. It's just life force energy, nothing else. Just generate life force energy. When you generate life force energy, positive energy within your body through these practices found in Kundalini yoga and in other types of yoga, that positivity, that healing will help you see what needs to be released
Yeah.
for you to step forward into the world in shine your brightest light and to connect with authenticity and to be that, I don't know, way shower or to be the light in the collective, to add that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And yoga is great for releasing. I know you've mentioned that a couple times, and I'm thinking back to when I was doing it on a more regular basis, actually a class setting
Mhm.
with an instructor and everything. You don't always know when those releases are going to hit, and you'll be like in some kind of pose, and you'll just start crying because it's breaking it down and just getting it out of you, and it's really, really beautiful. It really is very beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah, we do. We hang on to things like in our fascia, different emotions get all like, and that's like a whole other thing I could talk about. That's maybe another time. So yeah, so then when it's finally ready to release, you can actually physically do that and then have the emotion come through, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
really beautiful. And you
Mhm.
mentioned guides as well. And you also mentioned a word that I've been getting a lot in my own card readings. I do card readings for myself, and sometimes, well, they're always beautiful, but sometimes I get taken to task, and listening has been a
Mhm.
big word that's been showing up for me recently, and trust. So I feel like that kind of fits in with what you're talking about with the guides and everything right now too, when they do show up. And you mentioned it briefly earlier that you said you listen, they kind of come in like a little blip and you're not
Mhm.
sure where it came from, but you listened and you did the thing that was suggested to you. So I feel like that's a really big part of having the guides come in, is
Mhm.
actually listening and trusting that you're hearing what you're hearing.
Yeah, yeah, and action taking.
Yeah.
We are in like a physical world, so to take the action. I think maybe that's where yoga and movement comes in really good because you can take in all this theory, you can take in all this theory, you can take in all this theory, but then actually moving your body helps to be that actionable step as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I saw I don't remember if it was a video or a meme. It might have been some kind of video that was talking about how we are the only animal on the planet that doesn't move our body to shake things off. Like dogs will shake their head or shiver their whole body, and cats will do the little things that they do with their little movements and stuff like that. And birds, of course, you see them out there flapping their wings around and stuff like that, cleaning themselves and just getting, but we don't, us humans, don't take the time always to have that physical release of shaking that old stagnant energy off. So I feel like that really is what the yoga and dance, whatever, is really about.
Yeah, well, I can speak to that a little bit. Last year, I spent the year studying somatic experiencing trauma relief therapy. And this is about not worrying about the story, but seeing where the person actually holds the trauma in their body. And by watching in a certain way and being aware and knowing the techniques, you can see if like there's something going on in their shoulder and you can help them to release that.
Yeah.
And so that shaking, that's actually so when an animal has trauma, it actually goes in their nervous system and it goes through a cycle and then it releases through the shaking.
Yeah.
Humans, we feel trauma, our brain goes,
Yep.
and then it plops and stores into our body. And we never finish that cycle. And
Yeah.
so it never leaves. And especially like the younger the child, the more complex because now they have grown around that energy that's stuck in their body. Like this is energy stuck in the body. And it's being studied by like doctors and psychologists. So this is great. And it's going to be very, very helpful for people. So our brain gets involved and we don't shake it off. Like we get in a car accident, we don't get out of the car and start like shaking, right? We
Right.
sit there like stunned and we're like, oh no. And then we get all like I did explain it once, like if you fall down on the street, say you fall down on the street and like there's a bunch of people around, your brain might go, oh my God, who saw? Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Oh. But meanwhile, you like maybe sprained your ankle and it really hurts. But instead of being caring about our own livelihood and our well-being,
Mhm.
our brain is be like, oh, this person, maybe they saw me. Oh no, did I make a fool of myself? And so all that is getting wired in. And then
Yeah.
that adds to the trauma of that gets stored in the body. And that's all energy. It's this negative energy that's stored in the body. So does
Yeah.
that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're 100% right. So, I know you do yoga. What else would you suggest for people to move that stuck energy through their body and out so that they can actually heal?
Yeah, so yoga is really, really good, but like dancing, just throwing on some tunes, like if you feel inspired to do it, that's the moment to do it.
Yeah.
Like just even if, you know, if you're just walking around your house, it's like doesn't really make sense. If you get inspired to dance, do it. Put on some tunes, dance. You know, running can be good for people. Any And I find like it's funny, different movement will cause the mind to do different things. Where yoga is that moving into stillness. We're bringing all that stuff that's going on in the mind and we're, you know, okay, calm, quiet. Whereas when I used to run on a treadmill, that was when I would just spew like thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. But I was in a very different place. But I found that very therapeutic.
Yeah.
So it's still getting stuff out, letting it release. I think like twerking. That's like bouncing the butt. But that's like, we store a lot in our hips.
Yes, we do, especially us women,
Yeah.
our
So
hips and
that is
low
like
back.
actually like saying that out.
Bouncing it
I
out
don't
of
know how to
there.
twerk. It's something I need to take up. Like,
Definitely have to have the right kind of music for that. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, there's definitely like Kundalini yoga has some things that aren't the movements aren't as like fluid. They're sometimes a little more staccato. And
Hmm.
so I think that helps with the release. Um, but yeah, like I mean, whatever, because sometimes movement for people can be hard. So
Yes.
whatever can get you moving, even if
Hmm.
it's a walk, if it's, whatever inspires you to move, do it. Do
Yeah.
it. Get as much movement as you can. And like with our sedentary jobs, and even, we spend a lot of time at computers and like I find like even like making content and stuff. I'm sitting at a computer for hours. So yeah. Yeah, even little like check-ins every once in a while to like drop your shoulders down, sit up tall, being embodied, soften the jaw. It's always the best thing to see when you're scrolling Facebook and there's one that's like, take a nice deep breath in
Yes.
and relax your jaw, relax your shoulders. It's like, oh yeah, That's what I needed.
Exactly. It doesn't take long, and I think that's what people need to realize. A lot of people need to realize it doesn't have to be this long, drawn out process. It's really nice if you can go spend an hour on yoga,
Yeah.
but just, you're at your 9 to 5 job or whatever, and you're at your desk and just taking that moment to close your eyes and drop your shoulders down and take a deep breath. You can do that anytime. And it really does help, brings you right back to center.
Hmm. And that's where that's the present moment right here, right now. That is, you'll make the bet. That's the only decision you need to make.
Right.
What, like, what next from here? That's like, and that's also a little bit cliche, but it is so true. And that's what was shown to me in both of my Kundalini awakenings was that the present moment is like the only moment that matters. And the decision you make in this moment.
Yeah. Oh, that whole thing just made me feel so calm. I just feel so just like, whoa, now. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Just
Lovely.
very relaxing energy. And I
Mm.
would like to point out too that for people who may have mobility issues, there is chair yoga. It's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
so there's always something that's available to you. That's one of the beautiful things about yoga is there's always an alternative way to do it that will enable you to be able to do it. That's a lot of ables right there, but
Yeah, yeah, it just then in that case it really comes down to the human will and spirit, right? Because I that could be confronting for people. Oh, I can do this, but I have to use a chair. And I had one lady who was just amazing, and she would just come. She was so dedicated, and she didn't care. She was glad to be there, glad to be breathing. Would do what she could.
yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
that comes back to just some of the things you've mentioned before about the shame and embarrassment and things like that, and
for
just
sure.
knowing that we can show up exactly how we are and it's perfect.
Yes.
It's perfect. We
Mhm.
don't have to strive to be like somebody else and our bodies are all different anyway. Some bends, some people just aren't ever going to be able to do because of the way their skeletal structure is put together.
Yeah, I definitely I like to remind people of that everybody's different, to listen to their own bodies. They're like if anything, I'm really trying to foster a space that allows a person to have a loving relationship with their own body.
Yeah.
Not judge it, not need it to do XYZ, but learning, their own strengths, their own edge,
Yeah.
right? To learn about it. You can't love something you don't even know.
Right.
So, yeah, that relationship's very, very important. And then comes the being compassionate and the acceptance. And it's layers. You accept this, and then you accept this, and then you accept everything that's happened, and then,
Yeah.
and then you just spill love into all of it because it's all that's left.
Yeah. That's all that's left. And what a
Mhm.
beautiful thing. What an
Mhm.
absolutely beautiful thing. Wow. I love this so much. We're kind of wrapping this up a little bit. I feel like I love the love being the kind of like,
Yeah. Mm. Mm.
man, I feel that so much right now. That's amazing. Are there
Mm.
any last bits of wisdom that you would like to share with us today? And then I would like for you to tell people where they can find you if they would love to work with you.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything. Well, I'm sure there's tons more, but I'm like, if I open it up, then it just keeps like
That's true. That is true.
we'll leave it at that. If yeah, I would love. I just created and just launched my coaching program, my one-on-one coaching program called Awaken. It's full now, but I'm going to be relaunching in May. But this is a container to work with women who are on a spiritual awakening journey, who want to step into their gifts, who want to be more embodied, who want to connect with that life force energy to help guide them into their highest expression. So yeah, and then whatever we meet along the way, we will work with it with love and with compassion. So that's a 9-week container. So that I'm really looking forward to that. You can go to www.intentions-yoga.ca. I have 2 online Kundalini courses. I have a free resources section, tons of stuff there. I also do some videos and some classes on YouTube at Intentions Yoga.
That's awesome. Yay. And I will put all your links in the description box below the video so people can find you with the click. So thank you
Beautiful.
so much, Alecia, for being my guest today and sharing all this amazing information with me and our listeners today. I really, truly appreciate you. Thank you so
Mm,
much.
I'm so grateful. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Spiritually Speaking. I appreciate and love each and every one of you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. I love you all.